A couple of days ago, I made a video in which I told Police Scotland exactly what I thought of them, which isn't much, and that the chaos that followed the lurch into the Scottish legal system of the We Hate Free Speech law is a richly deserved kick in the teeth from our old friend Karma, payback for the nonsense of the Count Dankula prosecution, and proof that when you prosecute people for making jokes, you make a joke of yourself. So far, so funny, but there's a darker side to this as well. I'm Grannyopteryx. Some of you may not be aware that before this particular legislative abomination, there were two previous attempts by the Sturgeon government, that is when she was the head of the Scottish National Party, to drive a wedge between Scotland and England. They were deliberately designed that way. And those were, well, the first one was the gender self-ID law, which would have allowed anyone of 16 and up to simply go and register themselves as the opposite gender without any form of medical assistance or parental permission. Parental permission, remember that. This was scotched by Westminster on the grounds that it would cause administrative chaos. The other one was far more sinister. It was the Children and Young People Act, which would have put every child under the supervision of a government-appointed snoop over and above the parents. Westminster managed to stop that under human rights legislation. But if you look at both of those attempts, you'll see that the Scottish Government has been making deliberate stabs at driving a wedge between Scotland and England by creating legislation that cannot possibly work in the same union. And even more poisonous, both of these laws, well, the first one was having the government spy on families through their children, and the second one was encouraging gender confusion. That would drive a wedge not only between England and Scotland, but between parents and children. I'm not equating Scotland and England with parents and children, by the way. The government snoops would make the parents afraid to say things in front of their kids, and the more confused of the teenagers would be driven away from their parents by this gender self-ID nonsense. So, yeah, what could possibly go wrong? And then there's this latest, the hate speech legislation. However much we make fun of it, it's still on the books, and in essence, when you've stripped away the peripherals, it's a blasphemy law. We all know that. And it's a law that requires only that the complainant is offended. We all know it'll be used by Muslims far more than any other group. So it's a law that will split Scottish society apart. It will create a sort of dimitude for all native Scots, that is, all the ones who are white. But more than that, it's also a distractive law, because as the arguments for and against this law swirl about, and as various miscarriages of justice multiply, what Scots won't be talking about will be the corruption and inefficiency of their own government. They simply won't have time. And in any case, many will be far too worried about consequences. They won't want to open their mouths. Meanwhile, Scottish police don't have the resources to investigate, well, burglaries or assaults. Scotland has the highest numbers of drug deaths in all of Europe by an enormous margin. And I've read that in the poorer areas of Glasgow, life expectancy for a man is lower than it is in Mongolia. And, well, the Scottish education system is completely down the toilet. It's horrendous how badly educated Scottish children are now. So, what do we have here? A population of undereducated, underprovided children who've learnt the habit of keeping their mouths shut in a country that's running itself bankrupt. What better troops could a government assemble in a bid for a Red Guard generation to support their political ambitions? Yep, that's today's horror story. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.